What's going on, y'all? It's episode 6, Uncle Bing Bong's Can of Worms. What's good? What's happening? This episode is about my favorite toxic baits, son. So, how's everybody going? How's everybody doing? Going? Whatever you want to say. It's in the morning. I'm just trying to knock this out because I'm excited about an announcement here. So I wanted to tell you guys about the Toxic Baits tournament that's going to arise. So the Toxic Bait tournament that's coming up is going to be on June 28th of this year. We're not having Toxic Day this year. We're going to skip a year. We're going to do that in 2025, but we are going to have this tournament on June 28th. More details to come, but we already have sponsors like Swimbait Underground, Viking Head, Stay Bent. We're going to take sponsors for the event because we're going to pay back over 100%, 3 fish limit, so everybody has a chance. Or, I think it leans towards big fish because it's not going to be a swim bait only tournament, but it will be, hopefully we get some big ones caught. June's a good year for everybody to have a fighting chance. So it should be a fun time. I got the whole campgrounds again. So it's not going to be a huge event like Toxic Day, but we're going to have some stuff going on. Food, vendors, It'll be fun. We always make sure we take care of everybody. So if you're interested in sponsoring the tournament, hit me up, or being a part of it, helping out, whatever, should be pretty cool. So June 28th this year, that will be the first Toxic Baits tournament. I wanted to bring back the Protein, which was the first tournament I ever fished that Andy Cuccia, RIP, he ran that. But I think for my first tournament, it's probably smarter to just try a regular one before I deal with the proper way to, handle liability for teenagers on other boats and figure out a good way to pay the pros and stuff. So I'm going to figure that out, and we're going to do that next year or ASAP. But this first one, June 28th, Bing Bong, it should be fun. So that's the first announcement. Second announcement, you should start seeing Old Man Rivers pop out because we're getting everything dialed in on our new production molds. So that should be fun this spring. Those will be coming soon. PCS show's coming up. That'll be my official release date for the ABS stuff. That's the plan. The plan is to officially release them at the PCS show. If I don't have them by then, I don't know what I'm going to do. We got them, though. We have supreme confidence we're going to have that stuff. So, all right. Also, little tidbit. I talked to the guys at DRT, and this is a one of one right now. This was gifted to me from Tomoya when he came out for a trip to the Delta. But I think they're scheduled to release more frenzies this year, and this metallic bass will be one of them. Also, there's a DRT color coming from, I think, Dream Catchers. It's going to be a brown trout. That's coming out soon. Hopefully I didn't bust somebody's... hopefully they've told you. But if not, you heard it here first. Brown trout coming out. DRT. I think Dream Catchers over there in the Carolinas is going to have that. So, Bing Bong. Here we go. So, my favorite toxic baits. So, if you're watching this, you're probably a fan of toxic baits, or maybe you use some, or maybe you hate toxic baits. Whatever. And if you're new to toxic baits, then hello. I appreciate you stopping by. I have a vast lineup of baits. We've been doing this a long time. Not as long, of course, as some of the real OGs, but our stuff's kind of a little different. So my preference. Well, I got into this. I ripped this lip out, because I smashed it. But that's the Waking Crank. When I got into this, I was making the Waking Crank, right? We had seen some similar baits. The guys on the Delta, the OGs, have been cranking down other wooden baits that they were having modified that were large, kind of like swim baits. So we weren't the first to do it out here by any means, but started with the Waking Crank, and this is the Waking Crank HD. We don't really make this production-wise. This is one I made a very small run of. Has heavy hardware all the way around. This was the size of the original Waking Crank, and this is the size of the current model, right? When I decided to bring this to like market, so to speak, and it wasn't full time or nothing, but make it out of resin, I shaped it up to like 2.5 ounces, 2 ounces, because I wanted guys, tournament guys or guys who didn't throw big baits, to be able to have a bait to throw. This was 8, 9, 10 years ago. I don't remember. But me and my buddies were throwing this. Phil Dutra, Tanner Spawn, guys around the Delta, I was selling wood ones. We're throwing the waking crank, cranking it down, because crank downs really weren't a thing. I mean, they were a thing, right? But they weren't like marketed like they are now. So we're doing great. And I initially made it just to make more money in tournaments and have baits that other guys didn't have, right? So the waking crank will always hold a place in my heart, on top of the fact that when it's cold, like right now, early season or anytime it's a little cooler, whatever it is about the waking crank, cranking it down, put some lead tape on it or on the hooks or whatever, and I just do a sweep. You'll see in some videos where I just turn my body, sweep the rod, reel up the slack, sweep the rod, reel up the slack. Whatever it is about that retrieve gets smoked. I mean, 100%. But I mean, it works in all ways. That's just like, it seems like when I get a big bite, that's what I'm doing. I think it's because you could really focus when you're pulling that lure. You could really focus on how fast you were going, and you're really focused more on like what you're touching and hitting. You really want to hit stuff when you're cranking down if you can, weeds, wood, whatever you can. So yeah, the waking crank is probably my number one favorite bait, even if it doesn't get thrown a lot. If I need a bite, or if I'm like going somewhere where I'm like, I have to choose something to get bit, bait fish profile, it's going to be the wing crank, and it's going to be, me cranking down. It just gets bit, burning, slow, whatever, right? I mean, it gets bit in the summer too, but it just seems like we throw more gill-shaped profiles in the summer, even though I throw a gill-colored waking crank. I think it's just like a preference of the angler, right? So number one, waking crank, crank it down. Add some lead if you want to. It's not, you can't just burn it without sometimes it blowing out, or, but just crank it down. I mean, I don't know. It's not, like a lot of baits, like, the ABS stuff coming out is perfect. So you could do anything you want with them, but just in general, right? Like, if you get a waking crank and you're burning it and it's going to one side or something, it probably just needs to be tuned or whatever. But if not, just hit me up and we'll fix it. But yeah, so I fish my waking crank just like you guys fish a crankbait, pretty much. You know what I mean? Bang it into stuff, sweep it, whatever. So waking crank, number one. I have a couple models, but that's because I make these. So number two, from the crank down to the wake, bugle lips. One of my most underrated, least sold baits. That's why I say it's underrated. If you look at it, a lot of guys get thrown off because it has like the same side profile as the waking crank, but it's almost twice as fat, and it's set up totally different with the joint, the sound, the pin, the knock, the way this catches water. Everything about this bait was designed to wake, right? And it originally was larger. It was kind of big and clumsy, and I slimmed it down once again, like the waking crank. And, I mean, this thing is responsible for big fish. Last year, I missed the biggest bite I've gotten in a long time. I got to see the whole fish. But I've caught limits. I've caught big ones, small ones, whatever it is. If I'm waking a bait, I'm throwing the bugle lips most of the time if I'm not throwing like a gill-shaped. Even if I'm throwing a gill-shaped or I want to, I'll still pick up the bugle lips because it just has that like type of swagger thing, and like an MS Slammer style bait. That's how I describe it. Like, you just throw it out, reel it in. There's like a little sweet spot. You could speed it up or whatever, but once you get that little sweet spot with the knock and the wake and the gurgle and the squeak of the pin, definitely my favorite bait. As you can see, I use a lot of ST56 trebles. That's the 3X. They're sharp as heck. It ain't like the old school days where they're not sharp, so you're going to get hook penetration. That's like a crazy thing people talk about, is no hook penetration because the hooks are thicker. Just use sharper hooks. And if you don't use these, the BKKs are amazing hooks also. I don't know if I have any on anything here. Nah, these are probably 45s or something. Owner 45s, the Zoe wires. So bugle lips, number two. I guess, of course, the Wade Hogs would be number 1, 2, or 3. Because this does both, right? So if I had to pick a bait that wakes and cranks and does both, I'm gonna go with the Wade hogs, right? I'm gonna go with the Wade hogs, and if I'm gonna go with a smaller bait, it would be the whippersnapper. But the Wade hogs is just, I've caught my biggest fish on it, my biggest limits on it, cranking down, reeling on top. I know some guys like the OG hogs. We're dropping OG hogs today in 4 colors. Bluegill, silver bluegill, crappie, and bruiser gill. So those are a little more of a crank down, slim down version. I know a lot of guys like those, right? But I'm telling you, this hogs that we sell right here is the one. Dre caught a 12 on it. Like, there's a lot of really large fish, and they've all came on this. There's some big ones on the OG hogs too. Don't get me wrong. There's 10 pounders from multiple states on that too, but I optimized what I thought was the best way to fish the hogs when I made this. So that's just my opinion. It's bigger and fatter, makes a great noise. It's proven itself to be effective all over the country for big fish, medium fish, small fish, whatever. So the Wade hogs would be my number 1 all around, but probably third. Wake and Crank's my first favorite. Bugle Lips, because it's such an amazing, I'm proud of this design. The shape, everything, like, I really like the Bugle Lips. Wade hogs, number 3 overall. Probably number 1 most versatile anywhere I go, besides the micro mink. Now, I shouldn't even be numbering these things, right? Because I always tell people, if I had to feed my family in one of my lures, it'd probably be the micro mink. I can get bit on this year round for whatever reason. 40, high 40s. I don't fish where you guys do. Some guys with the low 40s and the 30s and shit. I don't fish that. We don't have that here. But, I mean, even on the East Coast when I went, I got bites on this. It was my only bites at some lakes. So, micro mink, I like to crank them down. ST56 trebles. I'll modify some of mine too, add lead to them. I don't sell a lot of the super heavy float ones because not everybody's into cranking down a rat. But I'm telling you, all my fish over 10 or even over 8, anywhere near big on this, have all came cranking down the rat. You can watch my rat theory video. I know it's years old, but that was after years of only throwing large and small rats. Like, if I was only fishing for trophy fish, I probably would only throw a rat, like 100%. I truly believe in it that much. And then testimonies from other trophy anglers from other regions that have actually given its due time on the water will say the same thing. Like, I've seen the biggest fish of my life come out of my rodent bait, or I missed one, or they caught it, So, man, the micro mink is, it's always an option. Like, I guess I say I take the wake and crank anywhere, but if I'm on the water on the Delta and it's a warmer month and I can't get a bite, I'm throwing the micro mink. And if it's another tip on the micro mink, if you're getting follows on cranking hard baits, glides, here and there, it can work. But if they're following a hard bait that you're cranking or waking and they're not eating it, throw a micro mink, throw a rodent bait, whatever it is. It's so natural. They smoke it in that clear water. So on to the next slob stopper. I don't throw this as often as I should, but this is, I love this design. I really thought about, I know it's stupid, right? But I thought about how to put these fins on this bait for so long. It never came up, So it's just a walking bait, like a Zara spook kind of, but it has a tail and these fins that really flare out. The fins aren't meant to be hokey. They just look natural in the water. I mean, they flare out, they fold back. They kind of like, if you've ever seen a fish hold position, especially bluegills, they like wave their pectoral fins. So I just try to emulate that with this. That's why I have these skirts in the baits. It's not because, it's silly looking or, a gimmick. It's a natural look. So, yeah, it's just a walking bait. Throw it in pockets. I wanted something I could throw in a little larger than a frog and kind of walk in place, and it's fit the bill. It's very simple, but there's not a lot of stuff. After I did this, I remembered there was like a flat jack or something. Fish Arrow had a walking bait with a tail, but it was set up different. This tail's real soft and flaps, and then with the, this is a lot fatter of a profile, and really walks super easy and super well. So, anyways, cool bait. I'm really proud of this design. And then from there, I guess, mini trucha, honorable mention. I love this bait. Swims super natural. It cranks down good. It cranks down to like 5 feet, 6 feet. And I just bang this on stuff. Like if there's the wing crank's good. I like the wing crank for soft, I call it soft cover, like weeds, stuff like that. If I'm fishing a rocky bottom or rocky points, anywhere that I have exposed rock or gravel, anything, like when I go to Clear Lake, anything like that, boom, I grind this on the bottom, just like the big trucha, actually. So I fish this wherever I can, right? I'll rip it out of weeds and stuff, too. Don't get me wrong, but it seems to fit the bill like that. Like if you have a rocky points, lake points, stuff like that, whatever it is about this bait, rooting on the bottom, they smoke. Another honorable mention is the muskrat. We finally brought this to market. I have other big rats, but this profile is just amazing. It's still big. It's like 5 ounces, but it's short and fat. And whatever it is about this profile, the fish seem to really like. You don't have to go longer. I went fatter and still got the big bites. So the big fish eat this, small fish eat this. This is a wake. I'll probably do some heavies this year, but I just don't do a lot because people don't buy crank down minks, or like rodents, but they definitely get bit, and this one does. This is not a exception. But for the most part, guys, looking for a rat that just wakes, I mean, this right here is it. It stays up very well. So muskrat, cool. I know this. It seems like I have a lot of baits here, but I have a lot more that I'm not showing. Here's the ABS hogs. This is of course, this is my new favorite. You know what I mean? So I love this bait. I love that they're coming to ABS. I can't wait to throw these. They swim great, everything. Thicker tail for guys that, rip tails off. And then a couple glides. I love these glides. I made these after years of making other style glides, so they're like a culmination. The Juke glide was really cool because it's hard to find a bluegill glide that isn't too tall, body to back, and actually shoots out. So we finally I had a few prototypes. I think there's a video of how I made this, showing other prototypes of the bait. But we finally got down to the shape. I really like this this glide. It's great for walking in front of cover. 2 tail types, so you don't have to remove the pin. You can switch to a stiffer tail. It shoots out wider. Soft tail, it turns tighter. Very simple. All right. So we'll end with my soft baits. Big wade frogs. Giant catcher. Even in your lakes. Guys say they miss a lot of fish. It's probably a 3-pounder. Or you probably weren't reeling fast enough. There's a lot of options, just like other stuff, right? It's a very large bait. When they hit it with a big 10-aught beast hook, they can't always get the hook, right? But I've caught some giants on it, and I absolutely love this bait, and I fish it subsurface more than guys probably even think about. So I'm buzzing it on top in the wind and other conditions like that. But when I'm throwing it and it's slack, I'm fishing it slower on the buzz. In the wind, I'm really cranking it. And then slower and letting it fall around cover. And in real clear water, if there's toolies and stuff, I'll run a leader. I don't care. I'll run a 25-pound shock leader of fluorocarbon, or even 30-pound if it's heavy cover. Just so I've caught some big ones just letting it sit on the bottom. So I fish this a lot of ways that in a soft bait that's not, it doesn't have to be like a battle shad, which is a natural looking bait, or a bass tricks, or, I'm fishing this on the bottom. So a lot of times. So it's just a different look. It's very natural. The legs kick together when you twitch it. So I love that bait. I love the small one. I like to throw the big one a little more, but the small one is amazing. It's caught some large fish too. Both of these have caught fish in the 10-pound range. And then some stuff you're going to see soon. This is my favorite swim bait. It's called the Bob. I call it the Bob for basic, ordinary swim bait. It has a grub style body. It's like a wedge shape. This tail, I've been using it for years and absolutely cracking them. I've caught tons of fish on these baits. They for sure exhibit qualities that get bites when other baits don't. Not instead of other baits, but some baits just get bit because they swim. This one definitely gets bit more than like your average swim bait, at least for me. So This is going to be refined out. No more grub body, little nose cone for weedless hooking. I think you guys are going to really like this. I mean, if you like to catch fish, because it catches them. And then this I call the Dart. This is a top pour prototype. We have one that's coming out. All these are being like refined up by the homie. He does a great job for me. He's been doing some computer modeling. So this is going to be refined where it's going to stay a top pour. This will be injected full body. But yeah, so be on the lookout for these. They have the same tail as my frog design. It's a kind of unique swim bait tail. You know, there's plenty of triangle tails, but the shape and the way it drops down adds more of a flick than like a big, hard thump roll. I don't really like when the tails twist. So that's why they look like that. So yeah, that's my baits, man. I mean, I guess that's a lot of freaking baits, right? But I make a lot more. So overall winners, of course, ABS that's coming out. I can't wait for this. This is my favorite thing ever that's ever happened. Besides, you know, like my son being born. Besides that, this is the best thing, coolest thing I've ever done in my life. For sure. Let's see. And I would say these two are probably my overall favorites. Bugle Lips, because the joint design, you don't see a lot of joints like this. If there is a joint like this, it's for sound and water capture, everything. Great joint. Great fish catcher. And the micromink, because it's just badass, dude. It's just, I mean, I've thrown other rodents, so I'm telling you, man. It's a labor of love. This bait was actually, I was going to throw it in the trash because the body sectioning, I had it sectioned different places. And before I gave up, I did this last one, and me and my boy that doesn't even fish went out. No eyes on the baits or nothing, and did a final test run. And we had 20 pounds in like an hour cranking down. And he doesn't even throw any baits, let alone swim baits. So I was like, ooh, maybe there's something to this here. So anyways, all right. We'll just end it right there. Boom. Not a lot of bullshit this episode. This episode was brought to you by Black Air Force Ones because we stay motherfucking active, bro. We're active out here. All right? You're going to see me out all over the state, all over other states. My son graduated from high school, so he's in college. He's a fucking full-grown adult. I don't have anything tying me home, you know. I'm a freaking old man sitting at home by myself, so I'll be everywhere. So this episode is brought to you by the all black Air Force Ones because we're fucking active out here, bro. We don't give a fuck. This is our whole attitude for 2024. We're taking this shit by force. So I guess it is what it is with that, right? The bold statement. 2024 DRT's coming out with that brown trout. Remember to be on the lookout for that. And yeah, Wade Hogs drop today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you guys are getting value out of these Uncle Bing Bog episodes. I think this is going to be the longest one yet. I try not to ramble. But yeah. So motherfucking for show. Thanks for stopping by. This is an easy platform for me to communicate to you guys through and keep you up to date. I don't have to do a lot of editing. So I know it's only episode 6. But I'm just going to keep it going. I'm going to take this shit down with me to the PCS show. We'll grab some interviews with John from Stay Bent and whoever else will come over to the house. We're going to Airbnb. It's right by the fairgrounds. So we'll be there for a freaking week. We'll be hitting all the local food spots. You know, we'll make sure we put it out. But we're going to do some good content, and I'll get some good interviews at the after the show. So, all right. Let's get out of here. Thank you for stopping by. Toxic Tournament, June 28th, 2024. Brought to you by motherfucking Black Air Force Ones. Because we fucking stay active in the streets, bro. You're going to see us out there. Out the trunk. Out the retail stores. Off the website. Wherever we can. So, peace.